Hey Critter, I want to give you some advice on stuff like this so it doesn't happen in the future because equitably I should have you send me a return label and return the lens at your cost. It was your mistake and not mine. But it seems to be working well, and I do kind of want a couple of extra lenses, and it didn't cost that much, so I'm probably going to keep it. As long as this works good outdoors tomorrow, I'm probably going to keep it. But anyway, when you take pictures of a lens, there's several things we need. Okay? So we need to see the lens. See how dirty it is, see how clean it is. We need to see the markings on the lens. Okay? These are actually not that important. The important ones are these. So there you see AF, spherical, the numbers, serial number, distances, aperture, filter size, etc. Okay, so we need to see all that. And then we also need to see this, because this is the mount. So see how I'm moving that around to make sure we get a nice clear shot. You see there's pins there, you see the shape, the connections, etc. in the lens. So you need a shot like that, and you need a shot like that. So that if you don't know, say you don't know, list what you do have. I'm curious how you made that mistake, because it doesn't say 300 millimeter anywhere on this. So even if you know nothing about lenses, it clearly says 28 to 80 millimeter. If the autofocus would actually focus, it's not going to. Whatever, close enough. Now, a couple of things you can do is white backdrop is good, but put some lines on the backdrop, on the back and the bottom. You need, the camera needs some sort of contrast. So you need a contrast between light and dark for the camera to have something to focus on. That's why all your shots are blurry. Go to the local thrift store, get some kind of a light, either something with, a mechanical arm like this, or a gooseneck light of some sort. So, gooseneck, something flexible. You don't want to put a bright bulb in it. You want like a 20 to 40 watt bulb, because too bright, you're going to blow out the picture. You need to create a smooth gradient of light. So you just move that light around until everything looks nice and creamy, and then you take your pictures. So you could have the light right here looking down, and you're taking your pictures. Use your hand when you take pictures of things like this. Okay? So for example, I want to make sure that the people have these numbers in the picture. So what I'm going to do is, here is the picture, and here is my hand. So I'm going to do this. So now when I take my phone and I take a picture of this, my phone can use, if it can't see the text, which will give it instant focus, it will use my hand and the contrast difference between my hand and the lens. So that means my hand can't be back here, because then it's focusing back here. I need it focusing up here. So you wrap your hand around it and make sure the heel of your hand is about level with the part you're trying to take a picture of. Right? Same thing when you take a picture of the bottom of the lens. Wrap your fingers around the lens like this. Okay? Adjust your fingers so that your skin's about the same height as whatever you're trying to take a picture of. This way, when your autofocus system in your cell phone tries to do its thing, it has that contrast difference between the two to get it. Because you were so dark, what you had was all white with a black blob in the middle. So the autofocus had nothing to focus on, so it just guessed. Same thing when you do the front. Wrap your fingers around it so that you have that contrast difference between your hand and the lens to give your autofocus system a little help in determining what that is. If you don't know what it is, say you don't know what it is. If you can't test it, put it under parts are not working. It's not going to get as many sales, but they can't say it didn't work and demand a refund. Okay? So if you don't know, say you don't know, put it under parts not working. If you have confirmed it's working, then put it under, use in whatever condition you decide. Also make sure you get the shot. Okay? You want people to be able to see the lens to make sure. Now see, I'm going to use my hand to help the autofocus. See that? I gave it something to focus on. If I don't give it something to focus on, it's not going to focus on the lens. But if I give it something to focus on, you can see it clears it up nicely. All right, so you got to do the same thing when you're taking pictures of stuff. Every now and then I just get in one of these moods where I want to explain this stuff to somebody, so consider this a freebie lesson. Other things with lenses, make sure they work right. Make sure they move relatively smoothly. There's no as you're moving it. Mention what caps you have. I think you did most of this just fine. But I suspect you had 2 lenses, and the other guy ordered a 2880 and he's getting a 28300 because there's no 300 anywhere on this. But you obviously got those numbers from somewhere. Never ever guess. Also, by using clear pictures, as you're creating your listing, you can look at your listing and look at your own pictures and go, whoa, wait a minute, this doesn't match up. But because your pictures were a blob, you never got that last chance to verify, what you were uploading because your pictures were just a blob. But that's it. Otherwise the lens looks pretty good. It's a cheap lens. I can get these for $20-25 on eBay. I sent you a listing. That's with shipping. There's not much margin unless you test them. Once you test it, once you can say, yep, this works, and I will guarantee that, well, now the lens is worth, $35 to $45. You can see them all over the place for like $40 Some even go a little higher if they have the box and everything. But that's the difference between parts untested, and parts not working, and tested working. People are willing to pay a little bit more if they know they're going to get a working lens, or you got people like me who are willing to, gamble on a parts not working untested lens, which usually they work, but not always. Sometimes you can tell if a person's got a lot of this stuff, they're just putting it under parts because they don't want to say it doesn't work. But then you got people like you who it's obvious you have no idea what it is, and you have no means to test it, so you're just listing it as untested. Well, I took the gamble. That lens, that 28-300, sells for like $70. So I took a gamble and grabbed yours, and I got that instead. But it's okay. It does work. I was able to mount it to the camera without a problem. There we go. So autofocus works. Everything works nice. No problems. I don't see any fungus. I don't see any dust. I don't see any intrusion in the lens. It's a cheap kit lens, but it's nice. It works fine. So as long as this gives me decent shots outdoors tomorrow, I'm probably going to keep it. Because I don't have very many Nikon lenses, so I do kind of need to build my stable of Nikon lenses a little bit, and that didn't cost me a fortune. So I don't mind. But there you go. That's it. Other lenses will be different. Like you have this lens here. Most of this stuff doesn't really matter. You should have pictures of it, but it's not that important. What's important is the type of lens. So this here is a filter. So you see how I got 2 things on here? Okay, that's because this is a filter. That filter comes off. Right? That's the data you want right there. Okay? There's your serial number. There's your autofocusing. There's your numbers. 75, 205, 3.8. Remember, it's always number colon, so you can ignore the 1. Ignore the 1 colon and just list what's after that. Some people take a 4.0 to 5.6 lens and list it as a 1.4 to 5.6, which would be a monster of a lens, and it's not possible. So ignore the 1 and start with what's after the colon. Or just list everything that's on there exactly as it appears. Other lenses will be a little bit different. Like this lens, it's listed here. So there's your 70, 210, 4 to 5.6. Okay. Anything else important on there? There's the other path right there. Nikon Nikkor AF lens. So that tells you what it is. This one here, it's on the body again. So there's your 28 to 70 millimeter macro 0.5 to 1.6, and over here Canon. If you have an actual Canon lens with the red ring, that's an L lens, they're worth more. With the Nikon, I believe it's the ones with the gold ring. They're the better quality lenses. Sometimes the information for the lens, just look up lenses on eBay, you'll see what I'm talking about. Sometimes there's a flat surface in here, and that's where the information is listed. Actually, you can see that on this. This doesn't list the information there, but it does have text there. So you can see there's information here. So that's an ultrasonic motor. It's a Canon EF lens. That's important. So EF lenses will work with any Canon camera. EFS lenses will only work with crop sensor cameras. So I could use this on my 6D and my 7D, but the EFS lens I have will only work on the 7D because the 7D is a crop sensor, while the 60 is a full frame sensor. So you do want to list information like that. So you did that with yours. You listed all that information. You know, it was just the wrong information. But that's it. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. I don't mind answering questions. Just want to be helpful. You know, I totally get it. You don't want to have to eat the cost of a sale, and I don't want you to. If I can use the lens, it only costs me $34. I'll keep it. But that's it. If you don't have a good phone, get one. You can get if you're going to be selling stuff on eBay, get yourself a decent smartphone. You don't need to go out and buy a new smartphone. What you need is a flagship phone. You need the Galaxy S20, but you need the old version. So even like a Galaxy S3 or an S4 or an S5 or an S6, as long as it was at one point in time a flagship phone, it's going to do what you need. It's going to have the better processor. It's going to have the better optics. It's going to have the better algorithms for taking nice clear pictures. It's going to have the better sensor. You just want to make sure it is a flagship phone. It doesn't have to be a modern one. You can go buy the old $30 Galaxy S4 or Galaxy Note 4, or LG V20, or something like that, the old Sony Xperia, find whatever is, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. Just make sure it's a flagship at some point in time in its past, and you're fine. It'll be perfectly usable. You won't have any problems. Or if you do have a modern phone, it was just your lighting conditions, then just correct that. So what I would do is, what you could do is you can start off, you have your work area where it was all white like this. What you need is a focus aid. A good focus aid, you can't use something big because that's going to change the contrast, so you need something small. So what you can do is take something like a grocery store receipt, but one that's nice and dark, or print it out yourself. What you want is something, something about that big, that has black and white with crisp lines on it. Okay? And what you do is you put that on the end of a stick, a little skewer, bamboo skewer. And when you have your photography set up, so let's say you're taking this picture, what you'll do is you'll come in here with your, I of course do not have a little stick handy, but you'll have your little, foot-long bamboo skewer with your little printout on it. You can even just, if you want to, you can make a specific one, make a checkerboard, like a chessboard, just 4 squares, where 2 white and 2 black. And then what you do is you stick that next to your target where you want to focus, like put it beside it, next to it, like say you want to get these words here. So you put your little target next to it and you aim the camera at that, and that gives your camera something to focus on. Although I think you would have been fine if it had just been brighter. Your problem is the room wasn't bright enough. If it's something that's high value where you're going to make more than 20, 30 bucks in profit on it, take the time to crop the pictures, because eBay recompresses them, and sometimes eBay doesn't let you zoom in as much as you want to. So crop them so the zoom is more effective. A lot of times I'll bring up a picture and I'll zoom in, I'll look at all the numbers and stuff on the lens, and that'll let me increase the probability of me getting what I want. But that's it. If you have any questions, ask down below or reply there. I don't care, anywhere. Just wanted to try to be helpful.